Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tit-bits on Business and Finance with me. To state the most obvious thing, and that too in very mild terms, India's banking and finance sector, which is its banks and NBFCs, have been in a huge mess for over a decade according to us. The rot in the system even today runs deep and wide, and that mirrors the state of the Indian economy, which also has been sluggish since quite long. Since 2016 onwards, we have seen the Indian economy's growth rate go down year after year, and that has been impacting the banking and finance sector. A surging economy with prudent governance generally means a robust and healthy banking and financial sector. And the opposite is the case when a nation's economy slows down and languishes. Banks tend to go bust when an economy comes to a halt and disrupts the credit cycle of the banking system and of the nation in turn. This situation has been made worse in India because of the rampant mismanagement and malpractices and the blatant corruption in the management of banks and NBFCs that we have seen from time to time. It has been led by the likes of Ravi Parthasarathy at ILFS, Chanda Kochar at ICICI Bank, Rana Kapoor at Yes Bank, etc. The decay in the sector began a decade ago and was very obvious when corporate after corporate sought to restructure its loans under the then CDR, SDR, S4A restructuring schemes in order to conceal and prevent a default. The companies knew it, the banks knew it. The banking regulator, which is the RBI, as well as the government, yet chose to ignore the stress in the banking system and let it be hidden under the carpet for many years together. It remained concealed due to the conscious collusion among all those who mattered and who could have prevented it, which is the top management of these institutions, their directors, particularly their independent directors, the statutory auditors, and the rating agencies also. This rot was hidden through accounting, manipulation, and falsification till it was out in the open on account of the inevitable debt defaults, the payment defaults that took place. Then, 14 public sector banks went bankrupt and they were rescued by the government through recapitalization, by putting in fresh capital, and through the PCA mechanism initiated by the Reserve Bank of India to nurse them back to health. The government also rescued bankrupt banks like Yes Bank, Lakshmi Vilas Bank, the PMC Bank in order to prevent any systemic collapse or a run on the banks, which would have disrupted the economy even further. The crisis in the NBFC surfaced with the breakdown of ILFS, and unlike in the case of public sector banks, which were financially rescued by the government, the NBFCs were not rescued. In the case of NBFCs, as part of a standard formula, the government generally superseded the board of directors of the NBFC, appointed an administrator, and sought to resolve the crisis either through sale of the assets of the fallen entity, as in the case of ILFS, or through a takeover of the entity, as in the case of DHFL being taken over by the Piramal Group. At the moment, due to their fresh capital infusion and handholding by the Reserve Bank of India, the bankrupt public sector banks have survived and they are back in business. But that is not the case with NBFCs, which could not survive the challenges of a slowing economy, the curse of a fraudulent management in those institutions, as we saw in the case of ILFS, etc., and a tight industry-wise credit squeeze that they have been facing after the fall of ILFS and DHFL. What we are now seeing is the collapse of one NBFC after another. Shrey collapsed a couple of months ago, and others will also follow suit. NBFCs are rife with serious governance deficit, corruption, mismanagement, and defaults, which then ultimately compel the Reserve Bank to step in order to resolve the matter and prevent a contagion effect across the economy, across the banking and financial sector. It is just that the Reserve Bank seems to step in much after the damage is done, and tens of thousands of crores of public money and of public institutions have been lost, as we have very often seen in the cases so far. The Reserve Bank has superseded the board of directors of 6 financial service entities so far, which include those of Yes Bank, Lakshmi Vilas Bank, DHFL, Shrey Infra, Shrey Finance, and ILFS. And the latest entrant in this dubious lot now is Reliance Capital or RCAP. And similarly, three NBFCs have gone into insolvency proceedings initiated under the IBC by the Reserve Bank, which include DHFL and the two Shrey companies, which is Shrey Infra and Shrey Equipment Finance. And now it will be the case of Reliance Capital also, with its supersession of its board of directors by the Reserve Bank and the appointment of an arbitrator by the RBI. The latest kid on the block of doddering NBFCs in India is the heavily indebted Reliance Capital, which has a credit rating of D for default, and it has been defaulting on its debt payments since 2017. While superseding its board of directors and appointing an administrator to take charge of the affairs of Reliance Capital, the Reserve Bank said that it had done so on account of defaults and governance issues, which it said was serious, and they had not been addressed by the board of directors, I'm sure, despite many opportunities to do so. It appointed Shri Nageshwar Rao Y, the former executive director of Bank of Maharashtra, as its administrator and said that it will initiate the resolution process under the IBC court at the NCLT, which could mean either the takeover of Reliance Capital like the takeover of DHFL by the Piramal Group, or its ultimate liquidation in case no suitable buyer is found for it. This belated move by the Reserve Bank of India puts another large NBFC into the insolvency process. Reliance Capital has been continuously defaulting on its payments, and its creditors have been repeatedly seeking Reserve Bank intervention to get back their money from Reliance Capital. Its creditors have been frustrated by its never-ending court cases and litigation and the non-cooperation of the company in making payments. Reliance Capital, of course, had no choice but to welcome the Reserve Bank move. It said that it will cooperate with the Reserve Bank of India's appointed administrator for expeditious resolution of its debt in the best interest of all the stakeholders. The company ironically blamed the complexity of litigation initiated by its secured and unsecured creditors, which it said has resulted in the pendency of cases at various courts, which include the Bombay High Court, the Delhi High Court, the Supreme Court, and various DRTs. And this, it says, has stalled its debt resolution efforts during the past 2 years. The supersession of the Reliance Capital board by the Reserve Bank of India comes as no surprise, and to us it was long overdue. It should have happened sometime in 2017 itself. Lenders and bondholders have been beseeching the Reserve Bank seeking to recover their money. Reliance Capital today has a total debt of 27,100 crore rupees, and it has a negative net worth of 8,195 crores. It is bankrupt, and so is its promoter Anil Ambani, who at one time used to be among the top richest billionaires of the world, but he declared bankruptcy in a UK court last year. Reliance Capital is a diversified NBFC with subsidiaries in insurance, life insurance, brokerage, and asset reconstruction company, and it also has a material stake in a commodity exchange, all of which add value to the company. But they all finally contribute to a combined negative net worth. Reliance Capital reported cumulative losses of 19,000 crores in the past 4 years, ending with a loss of 2,162 crores in the first half of the current financial year. The last time that the company reported a profit was in the financial year 2016-17. Reliance Capital today reflects the dire state of affairs of the Anil Ambani Group, whose 6 listed entities have a total debt of over rupees 1.31 lakh crores, and they together have a combined negative net worth of 59,300 crores. They reported a total loss of 17,000 crores in financial year 2021, and the market cap of these 6 listed entities of the Anil Ambani Group has fallen from 58,500 crore rupees in financial year 2017 to mere 8,360 crores now. Its other entities like Reliance Home Finance, RCom, R Naval and Engineering also face insolvency proceedings, and like in the case of Reliance Capital, they are also mired in court cases, litigation, etc., which delay the resolution. To us, the larger picture that emerges from this latest NBFC collapse, the collapse of Reliance Capital, is on many fronts. The first The overall finance sector, particularly NBFCs, continue to remain stressed. Like RCAP, many more will tumble since the past historical baggage of bad loans and mismanagement remains untackled, and it will trigger payment defaults in a slowing economy. NBFCs continue to face a credit squeeze, and market reports say that many of them are on sale, hoping to be bailed out. The second, the RBI action was again late, and it needed to have been done much earlier. If Reliance Capital was consistently defaulting on its debt repayments since 2017, then why was it allowed to continue to operate and misuse public funds right till now, despite huge public money at stake? It is, to us, unlikely that the Reliance Capital case will get resolved soon. The company is mired in enormous litigation to thwart its creditors, and the loans taken are so entwined that who owes what to whom and what is the actual underlying security to the respective lender or creditor itself is not clear. Litigation will continue for long, and a resolution will not be easy, like in the case of RCOM as we are seeing. The next, lenders to Reliance Capital will take a big hit since it is an over-leveraged entity with insufficient security. Bondholders are expected to write off at least 50% of their investment in the Reliance Capital bonds. And finally, the RBI action is certainly a setback to Anil Ambani's recent efforts to make a comeback, notwithstanding his bankruptcy, which few of us believe to be true. And then, others like State Bank of India will certainly double their efforts to invoke his personal guarantees and recover the dues directly from him. The fact of the matter is that the collapse of Reliance Capital is not going to be the only one, and watch out, more NBFCs are going to meet such a fate. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.